Okay, so in this video, I finally revealed the truth. I now have completely switched from my iPhone 14 Pro Max to the all-new Samsung Galaxy S23 ULTRA, the red one. Not the lime that you've seen me use, but the red one. Let's go ahead and jump in and talk about why it's a big deal. First things first, and I want to go ahead and drop this right out the gate. The Samsung Galaxy S23 ULTRA is the best phone ever made so far. Or in other words, it is as close to perfect as you can get on a smartphone. This is pretty much it. This is it. Now that said, it's not a perfect phone. I mean, there's no such thing, right? But again, this is as close to perfect as you can get. And that's the other reason why you see so many tech YouTubers claiming that, they're switching over to it. But we will start off by covering the details of my switching in just a moment. But the very first thing that I want to quickly highlight here is that there are key elements that made this switch happen, and you should actually consider these same key elements if you are currently shopping for the best phone that you could get your hands on. And in my personal experience, those key elements include things like this, future-proof design that you have here, a much better battery life on this phone when I compare it to my iPhone 14 Pro Max here, which by the way has tremendous battery life. A camera here that is just out of this world, and so much more, which again, in my experience using both phones, are better displayed on the Samsung Galaxy S23 ULTRA. Also, my switching to the red S23 ULTRA here is very different from other people switching, because not only that, typically I carry two phones, right? I will carry an iPhone and an Android phone. So when I got the lime one, at one point I was carrying the lime green S23 ULTRA and my iPhone 14 Pro Max here, then eventually completely switched to carrying two Android phones temporarily, the Z Fold 4 and the Lime S23 ULTRA, which by the way I very much liked. In fact, I liked it so much that I went ahead and got the red one that you see here this time around. And it is now my main phone because I'm pretty much doing everything on it instead of, like what I used to do, but I digress. All of that is important, but not as important as the why I switch. And here are the reasons. The first one that I want to highlight here in terms of design is this large boxy shape that is just perfect for my large hands. It's been super comfortable for everyday use with, either one hand or two hands. Samsung just nailed it simply because they finally understood that this whole design thing is a fairly subjective aspect of the device. So they figured, let's go ahead and try to satisfy everyone. Take the display, for example, right? This display is flat and curved, almost counterintuitive. Like, how could it be both? So they figured if they could find that right balance right in the middle, they'll be able to satisfy people like myself who generally prefer curved displays, and also others who generally prefer flat displays. So it's like everyone is satisfied here. Now, I am big into tablets, and I'm sure that this is not news for a lot of you guys, who've been watching the channel for a while. But I have to confess that I have found myself playing games and watching videos on the S23 ULTRA more than I typically do. I mean, not more than on tablets, but more than I typically do on phones. And that's very telling. This dynamic AMOLED display, and actually I should specify, this Quad HD Plus AMOLED display has been exceptional for watching movies, playing games, and so much more so far. It's just super vibrant when it comes down to color. They really pop, extremely buttery smooth with, that high refresh rate, along with very colorful animations. Now, One UI has truly come a long way. I have very much enjoyed all that this version of One UI has come to offer. Performance has been just extraordinary so far, right? The phone has nothing to envy my iPhone 14 Pro Max here in terms of performance, I'm telling you. And sure, we could compare, benchmark results and compare what raw power is like, but it's all about how that raw power is being, redistributed, right? How it's being implemented as it relates to, your user experience, the apps that, this raw performance will be powering, and, pretty much how it impacts your overall user real life experience. And the S23 ULTRA has done just that for me. It has done an excellent job at balancing, top level specs with real life implementation. And all I have to say is that it's been fantastic for my type of usage so far, and I got zero complaints so far. And again, kudos to Samsung for truly improving One UI when it comes down to usability, and most importantly, when it comes down to animations. Today's animation on just One UI, 5 here compared to what we've seen in previous version is definitely a step higher. I truly found this version of One UI to not only be super smooth with animation and, continuous transition, but also super intuitive. It always has, but it's a bit more intuitive this time around. It just feels like everything is right under your fingertips. I've had a continuously pleasant user experience when using this phone, from launching apps through, the shortcuts, all the way to multitasking. And again, I'm big into tablets. I mentioned that earlier already. I take a tablet with me pretty much everywhere I go, but not all the the time do you always want to go ahead and pull out the tablet, out of your backpack? When I'm in a waiting room, for example, or, at a park or on the metro, just the action of pulling out my Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra here and quickly launching a set of multiple apps combination using the Edge menu, for example, is just unmatched. I've been able to, spice up my interactions with the apps by tossing floating windows here and there. And for those of you not familiar, this actually makes you productive. At least me, it makes me productive. I know some people don't think you could be that productive on the phone, but yeah, you definitely can. Here you can quickly work on different things at the same time and then just put it right back in your pocket as soon as you're done in a very, seamless way. All of this links back to, performance, and then it tracks all the way down to the chipset. And I know I'm keeping today's video kind of specs less, right? I don't want to highlight too many of the specs, but anyways, it still kind of circles all the way back down to the chipset. What you have here is a chipset that is tailor-made for this phone to make it even more intuitive, right? So the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 4 Galaxy that you have here has propelled this phone to the next level, in many aspects beyond just raw performance. As I mentioned earlier, you could compare this to the iPhone 14 Pro and be able to point at raw performance and all that good stuff, but it's just all about how it's being implemented, right? So, performance here, or at least the chipset, has led to one of the most awesome battery life experience that you can get in a phone today. And that's just that. But let's go ahead and talk cameras really quick here. It's been just out of this world. The camera on this phone is amazing, especially when you consider things like zooming into faraway objects with, that 100 times zoom. It's some wild stuff. Regular or just normal picture quality has been excellent, depending on your preference, because it could also be subjective to a certain extent. But in my case, I find it to be good, both during the day and also at night. So in low light situations, definitely a good camera or a good phone to pick up as camera. In fact, this thing has become my wife's main camera. So she would use this to take pictures and then she'll go back to her iPhone for everything else. Tremendous battery life, like I mentioned earlier, based off of that chipset. Definitely better battery life than what I have on my 14 Pro here. But obviously, this is subjective, right? Depending on how you use your phone. I can't tell you how long it's going to last, but I can tell you that for me, I'm definitely able to see the entire day without any issues. Generally, I would say on average, I still end up with about, 30%, I would say 25 to 30% battery life left. So it could come pretty close to about a day and a half, assuming you just being a power user throughout the entire day and a half. And standby mode here is just so good. If you're trying to save some battery, yeah, you could definitely, turn off a lot of the things that are loaded in this phone here and be able to have your phone last forever. It's as if it just freezes time. It just is really good. And of course, if you need to go ahead and quickly charge, you can do so because it does support up to 45 watt fast charge. So you can get this thing from 0 to 100 in about an hour. Now let's go ahead and talk stylus. If you've been following the channel for a while, then you probably know that, I tend to lean more on my tablet when it comes down to, jotting down notes or using the S Pen in general. I would tend to use that on my tablet as opposed to using the S Pen that you have on the S23 Ultra here, because it's more of a comfort thing, right? I, just feel like it's more comfortable using it on a tablet. I personally haven't had like that deep of an experience using the S Pen on the S23 Ultra, but so far, the few times that I've used, to sign documents, to sign a few things here and there, and also take down some notes, has been pretty nice. But I usually just tend to move over to my tablet. But just know that it's there. I don't have a lot of input to share with you with the S Pen, but it's there. It has a ton of features if you want to go ahead and use those, a ton of remote features, and it's there if you want it. Lastly, here is just going to be, the ecosystem. It's been great taking advantage of that continuity that exists among all of the devices that I own, right? I do the same with my Apple devices, but of course, I do that with Samsung devices, going from my phone, having things in my, Galaxy Watch 5 Pro here, all the way to even the Galaxy Book Ultra that I have, the laptop, all the way up to my tablet. So it's been good to be able to just start off something on a phone and pick it up either on the tablet or, on my laptop. It's been pretty impressive. In my humble opinion, even that ecosystem doesn't have anything to envy, Apple's ecosystem. But anyway, overall, it's just my personal take that it's the current best phone in the market right now. And that is just the general consensus, from tech users all the way to average users who actually bought this phone. It is top notch. Either way, I'm hoping that this perspective, or at least this video, was informative. Let me know what any questions you may have. Do you own this phone? What color? If you do, what color, do you own? If you're planning on buying one, let me know what color you are going to pick up. Let me know what your questions. Let me know what your take based off of what I just shared today, right? Your take on my take. Let me know all of that in the comment section. Don't forget, of course, to like, of course, share the video if you know anyone who will be interested or who is currently, shopping for this phone here. And by the way, don't forget to reserve, with the upcoming Samsung devices, you want to make sure that you reserve so that you can save some money. I'm going to have the link in the description. I'm going to catch you in that comment section. Like I mentioned, make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and like the video. I'm going to catch you in the comment section. I'm also going to catch you in the next video. Up until that next video, of course, as always, stay safe out there.